record this. All right, so welcome to today's session to learn a little bit more about the DEIJ Leadership Certificate Program, which will be launching in September 2023. I'm glad we actually slowed down, and because again, this is part of ongoing long-term sustaining efforts that we have in terms of work that we all need, or we all know needs to be done within the international school ecosystem. I'm gonna start with a land acknowledgement, but we know it's more than just words. Words can be meaningless if there's no action behind the words. I'm acknowledging I'm based right now currently in Chicagoland, which is on stolen land. It is the land of the three fire peoples of the Ojibwa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. And in Chicagoland, there's more than 75,000 tribal members. And I say that because it's important for us, even when we speak in language of decolonization, that we are talking and thinking about indigenizing our curriculum and becoming more aware of the land on which we work, we play, and we live, and thinking about as leaders, as teachers, our knowledge of that land and also of engagement. Recently in our book club, Dr. Yurko Sepulveda had us look at sort of 5 powerful questions to consider. And one of those was, do you even know who's in leadership based on Indigenous folks where you're situated? Do you know what the focus, the goals of the group is? So again, it's just not, for us, it's beyond words. And I look forward in the upcoming trip to DC, where I'll see Marianne and also visit. And if Marianne, if you've never been, come with me. I'm taking a field study. I love going to the National Museum of American Indian, who we also collaborate with and contribute to. So if you want to learn more about our stance on the research link, and I'll drop that in a few, because our new DEIJ Leader Survey is also available there to learn more about what we do beyond just words. So agenda, 3 things. Why? Meet the facilitators, learn a little bit about the course that they're facilitating, and then the Q&A, run that in here, and then we'll get y'all out of here. So the why, in terms of us, background AIELOC, all about advocacy, learning and research. When we think about this program, we knew there was a need. You know why? Because you said it. A lot of schools said it. A lot of community members said it. They shared where and what they were learning, how they were learning in the different contexts, where it was US specific, UK specific, higher education specific to various industries. But we, in that learning, found out there was nothing for those that were international schools. And so this program is because you said it was a necessity. It was needed. It was needed because folks wanted to be in community, wanted to learn from the community, and wanted something else specifically crafted for the culture and the context in which we operate. So that's the big why. So you are the why. And we'll drop in, like we said, we did a recent, in the last year, DEIJ Leader Survey. It was qualitative, it's all narrative. So you're gonna read some interesting things. The one we dropped today asked about support. It's on Twitter, and someone said, I quit because there was no support. So again, our goal is to make sure that you know that there is a community, that there are others out here doing work, even when you feel like you're a lone wolf in situations, to know that we're listening and we're acting and making sure that there is some support for you. So that's a little bit about the why. I'm gonna turn it over to all these phenomenal folks who you've probably heard of, you may have shared space with a community, just to share a little bit about, just introduce themselves and just share a little bit about their part within the new certificate program. And then we'll take Q&A and get you off with what are the next steps. I'm gonna turn over to Dr. Emily Meadows first.
Thanks so much. I'm like fangirling over seeing the other people on the poster that you made, Kevin, because I'm such an admirer of the work of the other colleagues who are coming together to make this course happen. I'm Dr. Emily Meadows. I use she, her pronouns. I am an LGBTQ consultant for international schools. So I work with schools around the world to build safety, equity, and belonging for LGBTQ people. I grew up in international schools. I worked as a school counselor for many years in international schools. My doctoral work was focused on international schools. And that's where my private practice is centered as well. So this program really aligns with the work that I do to better understand development, safety of LGBTQ children, and how to build safer spaces for them. So my course will include some intersectional themes, looking at other identity markers such as race, but will center more on the gender and sexual identity aspects of DEIJ work.
Thank you, Emily. Turn over to Dr. Marianne De Rosa, going from the Netherlands to DC.
Hi, everyone. So good to see you guys. And I feel like I know many of you in this group already. So my name is Marianne De Rosa. I am a professor and curriculum designer at Relay Graduate School of Education in the Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Learner Department. And while I'm currently in higher education, I've been a classroom teacher for over 20 years in elementary school. I've worked in Washington, D.C. public schools as a teacher leader, as an equity and SEL coach in DC public schools. And I've also worked in international schools. Just last year, I was a teacher at the American School in Milan, where I was their DEIJ lead. And so I'm really excited about this program. When Kevin approached me and I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. This is exactly what I needed as a DEIJ lead. Just really excited, like Emily said, to join this group of professors. So my course is Leading Change. So while you have built knowledge in your other courses and on your journey in the work of anti-racism, the course that I'm teaching is really a methods course. We will talk about leading adult learners, transformational change, and implementation. And so we will talk about the techniques and methods for building up and setting conditions for creating an inclusive culture in your organization or institution. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. Next up, let's go to New York.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you, Kevin, for organizing this, and thank you to the facilitators and for all of you for being here. My name is Margaret Park, and I started my career teaching in New York City public schools. Then I was a school counselor in Boston public schools, and then I went to South Korea, and I was a school administrator and counselor there. I was there for about 12 years, and now I'm currently a DEI consultant. So my course is Exploring Identity as Leaders. This course is designed to equip school leaders and aspiring leaders to deeply think about their own identities and socializations that inform our beliefs and actions. So we'll begin to examine our intersectional identities, early and institutional socialization, power, positionalities, and lenses and framework on which we explore and examine our contribution to intersectional and educational justice. And so the point is, when we're able to do that, we can start to think about our own social identities in relation to our positionality in the world. And then when we understand that, where we hold privilege and power, we can use that to create systems that work for everyone. And we're going to be focusing on creating systems that work for everyone. And so the workshop participants will also explore our own implicit biases and the outgrowth from them. And then we'll also learn how to foster equitable, brave, and caring learning spaces and cultures. So as leaders, that would be translated into meetings, into, if you're a leader of a school, how are you going to lead with that lens? And then participants will be encouraged to take their learning into your context, acknowledging that all of us come from different contexts. And then there'll be a lot of internal work. There'll also be a space for group learning, and then space to take that learning into action. And so this course will involve a lot of critical self-reflection and internal work, as I mentioned before, and hopefully it'll build a foundation for the next courses. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Park. Coming next to the virtual stage, Joel.
Hello, hi everybody. Great to see you all. I feel like I know almost everyone here in our community. It's so wonderful to be in community with everybody, and also thank you for your interest and excitement around our work. And really, the impetus of the work is about how do we build leadership capacity for the work that we are going to do on DEIJB, that we currently do in DEIJB. But to introduce myself, I'm Joel. I work with International School Services as director of DEIJB. And so a lot of the current work and engagement that I do is very much a transfer to this course, right? It's about looking at the different case studies probably that are surfacing in the work as you lead DEIJB work. So my focus in here is really around how do we co-create outcomes and actions and impact. And so as a consequence of all the reflection you will have with Margaret, with Emily, with Darnell, and Marianne, mine will be towards the last part of the session, which is really around, how do we understand and navigate those contexts and what would be considered complexities and the need for change. We'll talk about, we'll be inspired by the work as well of Adrienne Maree Brown around holding and facilitating change. We've got a lot of change theories in international schools and different frameworks and all of that, but we're also going to really highlight and explore the change theories from Black feminist leaders and philosophers. And one example is the work of Adrienne Maree Brown around holding change and facilitating change. We'll also look into equity leadership dispositions around what are the characteristics of leaders that are equity-centered. Oftentimes there's a lot of focus on diversity, but then actually we need to look into the toxicity of the soil and then nurture that and then feed that and then sustain that in order for us to be able to have different kinds of plants to grow in that healthy soil and ecosystem. And then we'll go into designing for equity. We'll look into, I know Darnell also will talk about monitoring accountability. So there will be some overlaps in there, but at the same time that there should be consolidations in some of those thinking, because that's a critical piece of this one, right? It's a transfer now of all of our learning and how it looks like in our schools and communities. And then we'll talk about how do we engage our community in the change process. What are some of the skills, the facilitation that we can do to really build coalition, to harness our individual, our institutional, our collective power for agency, autonomy, and liberatory consciousness so that we can transform systems and self at the same time. So we look forward to having you learning with us, and in as much as we will learn from you as well. Kevin, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. And I haven't been able to call him this yet since he completed his program. Dr. Darnell Fine.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I'm also really excited for the course, all of these different courses. I'm actually co-facilitating this course with the person who co-authored my dissertation, Dr. Wendy Windust, and she'll watch the recording later. I guess instead of just talking about my bio, which you can read, I believe that education is the practice of freedom, in the words of bell hooks. And international schools and organizations should also be liberatory spaces for students. That marginalization doesn't just happen in the West or the United States, it happens globally, because there's no part or corner of the globe where white supremacy and these different systems of oppression have been touched. So it's important for me as a facilitator, as a practitioner, as an educator, to disrupt these systems. I'm in a position of school leadership here in Singapore, and I feel an extra weight or responsibility to ensure that we're engaging in this work. Joe already referenced the course that I'm doing. It's titled, But Who Can We Count On? And we should be able to count on ourselves and all of our community members to monitor, as well as hold each other accountable. So this course takes the Latin origin of accountability, which means computare. I don't know Latin. I do know how to look up etymologies of words, and it means to count. And we're seeking to redefine this within the context of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Our course does not simply focus on numbers, metrics, and checkboxes. We dive deeper. We recognize that in counting, we are giving voice to those who are often unheard and underrepresented. We're acknowledging their experiences and their stories. The core of our course that Wendy and I are doing really is around designing DEIJ scorecards. These scorecards are not just tools for measurement, they're also portraits, reflecting the lived experiences of historically minoritized and excluded groups. We're really leaning into the context of racism because it's so often disavowed as well as ignored and minimized in international school contexts. But we believe in intersectionality. All of these systems of oppression can get this work. And we want to attack, adjust, and confront all of these different systems of oppression, from trans antagonism to classism and what our local teachers experience, to gender inequity and patriarchy, to all of it, because all of these systems are mutually reinforcing. These DEIJ scorecards aren't one-dimensional. They also evaluate knowledge and motivation of dominant groups within organizations. This is a way for us to ensure inclusivity within organizations and acknowledging different voices. So the uniqueness of this course really lies in the human-centric approach of DEIJ monitoring and accountability. So we're not just focusing on the numbers. We're also looking at conversations, observations, institutional artifacts. It's not just code and personal processes of measurement. It's a journey of understanding the human faces behind the numbers and creating an environment where every voice counts. So it's multifaceted. Just excited to give validation to you as participants. You all aren't passive folks holding others accountable and monitoring others. It's also monitoring and holding yourself accountable and really interrogating the privileges and the demons within us and disrupting those things. So all of it, it's multifaceted, but also co-constructed. So the course isn't about us disseminating knowledge and lecturing like I'm doing now. It's going to be very much a co-constructed process of us building and designing together, and to build off of what Joe was saying, consolidating all of the beautiful learning you do in those previous courses.
Thank you, Darnell. All right, Elaine is on the other end of time zones a little earlier, and so I'll just do a quick brief intro. Her course is called Race in Action in International Schools, and the focus will be on exploring race and its implications through the lens of ourselves, culture, and the context of international schools, engaging in an analysis of the racial context of the school, which you currently work in, and develop an action plan. It'll be interactive, where you engage in discourse with each other and engage in deep questions around race, racism, and action in international schools. Just a little bit about her background. She's lived in the US, Mexico, Greece, Spain, Italy, and the Netherlands, serving in various different capacities, from department chair, director of multiculturalism and inclusion, and assistant head of school for academics and dean of equity and social impact. So that is that. But even in the midst of that, there'll also be some guest facilitators who will be hopping into courses as well at various times. So open up the floor before we close with any questions that you may have. And then a lot of the next steps that you'll see if you signed on either to the Zoom or signed up for more information, we'll send out. And that'll be things such as information on each of the courses, the application process, which will open on the 5th of June. So keep that in your diaries and calendars. 5th of June will be the official opening to apply for this first cohort. And then there's two different sort of routes you can take. One route will be if you want to go SUNY route. So SUNY is one of our partners and collaborators. So that would just mean that we'll have information readily available for you. You'll be added to on our website as well. You'll just apply through SUNY. There is an application fee to pay for that. And then for each of the courses you take, it's 2 credits that you will earn. And again, that's something that's specific to SUNY. So all that information will be readily available. Or you just say, I don't want to go to SUNY route. I just want to pay and have it as a certificate. And we'll have, again, that information for you readily available. So anyone who signed on for the Zoom or you signed on for the initial Zoom Excel spreadsheet, you'll have that information will be sent to you. But questions before we depart out? Dr. Dale.
Hi, Kevin. Hello, everybody. I have 2 questions. The first one's a simple one. Is the cost the same whether you go the SUNY route or just the certificate route?
Yeah, it would be different. The SUNY route, just because, again, that is for them, they have where you're paying for credit. So each course, let's say you take a course, and I have to check, their last quote was around $150 per credit.
Okay.
So, but I'll get an update from Brandon just to make sure, because I know every year there's changes. So we'll see if that's what that cost is. Yeah. And then their application doesn't exceed, the last I checked, again, was around $70 US. But we'll see what, the application, but there will be we'll have like an initial application fee for entry into the certificate program. And then you'll see there'll be like a little bit of a narrative that we have you do. We want to know who's interested in the program, their why, and the work that they're currently doing. So that folks know that this is not necessarily a let's begin stage. We want folks who are already invested in doing work within their community and within the ecosystem as well.
All right, that kind of leads into my next question, and that is, what is the balance between knowledge gained and the skills? And by skills, I mean facilitation and helping folks who take the course in that process.
And if any of the facilitators want to jump in based on sort of task and assignments, whether it's individual work or group work connected to that.
Yeah, can I take a stab at this, because I agree, I feel your question, because we do a lot of knowledge building in the work, right? And there's a lot of knowledge building, and I think that the next level is definitely, what is the method? What is the technique? How do I show up, and what do I say? And I think it's so important that we practice what we say, and that we anticipate what might be coming, so then what to say next. I think that was one of those gaps when I was a DEIJ lead, and I've learned along the way. One of the biggest things right now that I'm learning in my organization is how to run an affinity group, which is so important, but it's so intentional. And I hope to impart, at least in my course, those types of structures, like how do I build an affinity group, and how do I sustain it? How do I make up the scope and sequence for that affinity group, and what happens when, or what happens if? So hopefully you'll see that in my course.
Yeah, I'll hop in there. I very intentionally started with saying education is a practice of freedom, because it should be about application. You of course build that knowledge, but knowledge doesn't mean anything if you're experiencing this course as a thought experiment and going, oh, that's a good idea. There should be application, and we know that the power of professional learning isn't simply memorizing facts or ideas or theories, but leading into practice. So whether that's intentionally built within our courses, and I think it is in each one of our courses, I think our own responsibility as learners is figuring out where the application can happen in our local context, but we have to intentionally structure space and time and intentionality within our courses. And I think each of our courses strives for that application and strives for the procedural knowledge where we're actually building skills to practice. But that's something I think we should all hold each other accountable to, ensuring that it's not just a thought experiment, it's application and asking, how are you using this in service of people who are minoritized?
Thank you.
Darnell, can I ask a follow-up question? In any way, does the practice element for each of the individual courses, do they lead up to some type of capstone project where you put together the information from Mary Ann's course and the information from your course? How does it all merge together?
Joe, you can feel free to hop in too. I think our aspiration is that we are always consolidating our knowledge. And I think there are courses towards the end that seek to purposely consolidate knowledge and build off of all of the ideas that you're exploring, while recognizing that we might not be able to attend all of the courses because there's only so many minutes in a day,
right,
or in a semester.
Thanks, Darnell. Thanks, Gerald, for that. One of the things as well that's really critical around that, especially towards the end, is that consolidation piece, right? So one of the potential aspirational sort of transfer goal that we have is a kind of strategic leadership that you can either propose to your leadership or take action or use it as your own strategic plan all throughout the school, and how might that look like? And so some of the things that I've been using as well internally at ISS is our TAME framework, right? What's the time, the accountability, the agency. And when I say TAME, it's like the money, but actually, yes, money, but also the other cultural and wealth and resources, and then the energy and engagement. So I use the TAME framework for us to be able to map out what are those that can actually support us. So probably my thinking is that as we continue to develop this, that transfer goal is that now that you've consolidated all of your learning all throughout, is that we are going to create that kind of capstone in the end to be able to say, this is something, this is the consolidated piece that I'm going to take with me to my school. And then there could be an opportunity for each other to coach each other and ask each other caring and critical questions to support us in leveraging that within our own community. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Barlow. Question on time commitment. Synchronous, asynchronous, how many months does it run? No worries. The 6 courses in total, yes. And then that information, Luis, will be coming because we want to make sure we have the updated information from SUNY on their application if you decide to go that route, as well as the credits. But I'll let anyone who wants to jump in here, Margaret, around time commitment, synchronous, asynchronous. So the length of weeks that you all sort of decided.
Margaret, are you going to respond or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was
I
no, sorry.
apologize.
I was like, if you want to just share on
I
a
can share
setup,
too, but
synchronous, asynchronous.
No, sure. Yeah. So, yeah, there's both. So it's synchronous, asynchronous. I would say the time commitment, it would vary a little bit, but it seems like all the courses are around, I think around 2 hours, on Zoom, and then the rest of the time is off Zoom. And then depending on the instructor, there'll be some pre-class readings and discussions that happen before and after. And so it would vary, but I would say I took a look at all the syllabuses. It seems about per week, it would be around like 6 hours, 5-6 hours. Please feel free to chime in.
The SUNY course, like if you want your 2 credits, you have to take 30 hours of learning and instruction and participation. But between our courses, we have decided to kind of, some are 6 weeks, some are up to 8 weeks, and then like consolidating those hours in between those times. So for example, my course is 6 weeks with a lot of asynchronous work, and then we meet for about 90 minutes a week. So we understand everybody's busy like that. We're all educators here. So it's a heavy lift, but in a way that hopefully matches your context and your needs as well.
And I think there was a question about follow-up questions. So yeah, you can email AIELOC2019@gmail.com.
Got about 1 more minute. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all for joining us. And again, you'll see like this recording, follow-up materials in terms of next steps. Application open on 5th June. Your next steps is just pretty much like what route you want to pick and select. If you're at a school, I think that was a great idea. I think Marianne posted in terms of your school, if there's professional learning resources, if your school's already a partner with SUNY, which happens in some cases. Good question, Barlow. How many folks would be in a cohort? It hasn't really been, I would probably not for this first one. We probably will not try to not exceed 30. So that's the thinking for the initial one. So I think number wise is probably not more than 30 for this first one. So if you don't get into the first one, no worries. It is going to be on a rolling basis as well. So these courses will be, because some people say, can I take one course at a time? You can take one. Most people take two, so two will be offered simultaneously. But if you say, okay, I want to finish this within 1 or 2 years, it's pretty much on the parts. We've got some folks who are already in different cohorts that are interested in this cohort. So it's like we're trying to balance out multiple cohorts you're doing as well. All right, folks. Well, there's any other questions, feel free to reach out and look for that follow-up. You registered on here, so you'll get it. And there's also folks that were registered via a document that was sent out that will go out. But we look forward to learning more about you, your context, and looking forward to seeing your application. All right, have a great day. Thanks again to Joel, to Darnell, to Margaret, Emily, and to Marianne for joining us. And have a great one.